He stood at the kitchen sink rinsing a glass when he said it. Casually. Like mentioning the weather or weekend plans. I should tell you something. I've always been able to hear. The words hung in the air. My hand froze on my rounded belly where our daughter kicked. 6 months pregnant, and the man I'd loved for 5 years just shattered everything I thought I knew. I didn't scream. Didn't throw anything. I stood there in our designer kitchen, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, and felt my entire world tilt sideways. He turned to face me, drying his hands on a towel. His expression was calm. Almost relieved. Like he'd been carrying a secret that finally didn't matter anymore. What? The word came out flat. Emotionless. I can hear, he repeated, speaking clearly without watching my lips. Without the careful enunciation he'd used for years. I've been faking it since before we met. It made better marketing sense. My heart didn't drop. It detonated. But I stayed perfectly still, watching this stranger wearing my husband's face. He kept talking. Explaining. His voice sounded different now. More casual. Less measured. Investors lean in closer when they think you can't hear them, he said. They underestimate you. Give you more time. The deaf tech genius angle sold the company better than anything else could have. I still hadn't moved. My hand remained on my belly, feeling our daughter's movements. She kicked again, oblivious to the earthquake happening around her. The documentaries. The keynotes with interpreters. The awards. His voice held something close to pride. None of it would have worked the same way if I was just another hearing CEO. I thought about our wedding. How he'd read my vows from my lips. How I'd signed mine while speaking them aloud. How I'd cried watching him because I thought our love transcended sound. You lied during our wedding vows. He shrugged. Actually shrugged. I was committed to the narrative by then. The narrative. Not our relationship. Not our marriage. The narrative. Then he delivered the second blow. I think we should separate. He said it kindly. Gently. Like he was doing me a favor. This pregnancy was good timing actually. It'll look better for both of us if we're already apart when the baby comes. I stared at him. This man I'd built a life with. This man whose company I'd helped create from nothing. You'll be fine, he continued. I'll make sure you're settled somewhere quiet. Comfortable. The baby will have everything she needs. But I need to move forward now. Quiet. As if I'd simply vanish. Fade into the background like I always had. I've replaced you at the company, he added. Vanessa handles everything you used to do. She's more aligned with where we're heading. Vanessa. The new executive assistant who'd appeared 6 months ago. Polished. Eager. Always nearby. Always ready with solutions before problems even emerged. You planned this. My voice sounded distant. Like it belonged to someone else. I planned everything, he said. My name is Allison Carter. I'm 32 years old. I'm a white American software project manager who spent 5 years believing I'd married someone real. I met him at a tech networking event in San Francisco. Back then, he was just starting out. An ambitious developer with a laptop and dreams. He sat alone at a corner table, scribbling notes on a pad. When I approached, he smiled softly and pushed the notepad toward me. I'm deaf, it read. But I read lips pretty well. I thought his silence meant depth. Thoughtfulness. I thought someone who couldn't hear the noise of the world must see it more clearly. I was wrong about so many things. We dated for 6 months before I met his family. They all signed fluently. His mother hugged me and thanked me for being patient with her son. His sister told me stories about his childhood, about how he'd learned to navigate a hearing world with grace. They were all in on it. Every single one of them. Professional actors in his elaborate performance. I helped him build everything. In the early days, when his company was just an idea on a whiteboard, I drafted proposals. Organized workflows. Cleaned up patent applications. I sat beside him in investor meetings, carefully repeating questions so he could read my lips better. Investors adored him. The deaf entrepreneur who refused to let anything limit him. The tech genius who turned disability into advantage. They wrote checks and told their friends. Within 2 years, his company had secured $12 million in funding. I handled the boring paperwork. That's what he called it. The contracts. The legal documents. The patent filings. He preferred creative work, he said. Strategy. Vision. The big picture. So my name appeared on everything structural. The foundation documents. Early intellectual property agreements. Board communications. I was listed as co-founder in the original LLC paperwork because I'd filed it myself. He never changed those documents. Never thought he'd need to. The company grew fast. His story became the story. Journalists wrote features. Documentary filmmakers requested interviews. He gave keynotes at major conferences with ASL interpreters beside him, speaking his words aloud while he signed. The world applauded. Called him inspirational. Revolutionary. A pioneer who proved disability doesn't limit vision. I stood in shadows at those events. The supportive wife. The quiet partner. The one who made sure everything ran smoothly behind the scenes. Nobody asked about my role. Nobody wondered who handled operations while he traveled. Nobody questioned why a deaf CEO never seemed to miss a single important detail in rapid-fire meetings. I told myself it didn't matter. That I was helping something bigger than my own recognition. That our partnership extended beyond public credit. I told myself a lot of lies back then. Things changed about 8 months ago. Around the time I got pregnant. He became colder. More dismissive. When I mentioned feeling tired, he suggested I take time off. When I asked about upcoming strategy meetings, he said Vanessa would handle it. Vanessa appeared out of nowhere. 26. Efficient. Always perfectly dressed. She started attending meetings I used to run. Responding to emails I used to manage. Standing beside him at events where I used to stand. She brings fresh perspective, he explained when I asked. You've been looking tired lately. I blamed pregnancy hormones. Told myself I was being paranoid. Women doubt themselves, right? Question their own instincts when something feels wrong. But something was wrong. I just didn't know how wrong yet. One night at dinner, I tested him. We sat across from each other at our dining table. I spoke while looking down at my plate, my lips completely hidden. The doctor said the baby's measuring ahead of schedule. He responded immediately. That's good. Healthy. Too fast. Too natural. No request to repeat. No careful lip reading. Just instant comprehension. My fork clattered against my plate. He looked up, realized his mistake, but recovered smoothly. I caught a few words, he said. And guessed the rest from context. But his eyes held something different. Caution. Calculation. The look of someone caught. I smiled. Nodded. Continued eating. But inside, something cracked open. A terrible possibility I'd been refusing to see. Later, while clearing dishes, I dropped a spoon behind him. He flinched. Turned around. Caught himself. Felt the vibration, he explained. I nodded again. Kept smiling. Started documenting. I cried in the shower that night. Hot water mixing with tears while I processed the impossible 0.5 years of my life built on a lie. Every intimate conversation. Every whispered confession. Every moment I'd thought we shared something deeper than words. He'd heard all of it. Every word. Every sound. Every private moment when I thought silence protected my vulnerability. The pregnancy announcements I'd rehearsed before telling him. The nights I'd cried myself to sleep after miscarrying twins the year before. The phone calls with my mother when I'd admitted feeling lonely. He'd heard everything. Chosen silence. Chosen deception. I pressed my forehead against the shower tile and made a decision. Instead of confronting him immediately, I'd wait. Document. Prepare. I'd be calm. Patient. Methodical. If he'd spent 5 years performing, I could perform too. I started reviewing documents. Old contracts I'd filed. Patents I'd helped prepare. Board communications I'd drafted when the company was just forming. My name appeared more than I'd remembered. Co-founder on the LLC. Joint signatory on early investor agreements. Primary contact on 3 major patents because I'd done the actual filing work. He'd always called it our company back then. When it was small and uncertain. When he needed my project management skills to organize chaos into structure. But somewhere along the way, it became his company. His vision. His success story. His empire built on inspiration. And I became the wife. The assistant. The person who handled boring paperwork while he handled glory. I photographed everything. Backed up files to personal drives. Documented dates and signatures. Quietly. Carefully. While he traveled to conferences and Vanessa sent me sympathetic messages about how hard pregnancy must be. He pushed papers across the table one evening. A financial separation agreement. Just preliminary, he said. For your stability. In case anything happens to me. I read through it carefully. The agreement would transfer my shares to a trust. Remove my name from active company ownership. Provide a generous settlement in exchange for waiving future claims. This gives you security, he explained. Guaranteed income. No matter what happens with the business. I smiled. Set the papers aside. Let me have my lawyer review it first. His jaw tightened. Just slightly. It's standard. I had our lawyer draft it. I know, I said gently. But I'd still like my own lawyer to review. For the baby's sake. He couldn't argue with that. Not without revealing something. So he nodded. Agreed. Tried to hide his frustration. I never signed. Never intended to. But I let him think I would. Let him grow confident. Let him believe I'd stay quiet and compliant. 3 weeks after his confession, he accepted a major humanitarian award. Technology Pioneer of the Year. A ceremony with cameras, press, and a live audience of industry leaders. I watched from backstage, 7 months pregnant now, while he gave an inspiring speech about overcoming challenges. About refusing to let limitations define possibility. The interpreter beside him signed while he spoke aloud. Or pretended to. His words carefully crafted for maximum emotional impact. The audience stood. Applauded. Some people cried. I stood in the shadows and photographed everything. After the ceremony, backstage, surrounded by staff and admirers, something shifted. Someone asked him a question from across the room. Behind him. Not facing him. A casual inquiry about after-party timing. He was annoyed. Tired. Distracted. And he answered. Immediately. Without turning. Without lip-reading. Just snapped back a response about the schedule. Staff froze. Several people exchanged glances. Someone in the back had been recording behind-the-scenes footage. He realized his mistake instantly. Tried to cover. I felt someone talking near me. But the damage was done. That moment of unguarded annoyance. That instant response to a question he shouldn't have been able to hear. The videographer was a young intern. Someone who'd been inspired by his story. Someone who'd applied to work here specifically because of what he represented. She kept recording. The clip appeared online 3 days later, just 15 seconds. But devastating. Question from behind him, what time's the after party? His immediate response, 9 o'clock. Stop asking. The realization. The panic in his eyes. It went viral within hours. Tech blogs picked it up. Disability advocates demanded explanations. Investors started calling. His PR team issued a statement. A misunderstanding. A momentary confusion. He'd felt the vibration of someone speaking and guessed the question from context. But the internet is unforgiving. People started analyzing old footage. Pointing out other moments. Other inconsistencies. The house of cards was trembling. I stayed quiet. Didn't comment publicly. Just sent a carefully worded email to the board requesting clarification on several old contracts. Professional. Concerned. Appropriate for a co-founder checking on company stability during crisis. My inbox exploded with responses. Suddenly everyone needed my input. My documentation. My version of events. The board launched an internal review. Not about his hearing specifically. About company integrity, shareholder value, risk management. They requested documentation of all early agreements, patent filings, investor communications, everything from the founding years. I provided everything. Professionally. Thoroughly. Every document I'd carefully saved. Every email I'd backed up. Every contract with my name listed as co-founder. His lawyer called. Asked me to be reasonable. To think about optics. To remember our marriage and our daughter. I was thinking about our daughter. Specifically, about the world I wanted her to inherit. One where truth mattered more than performance. He called me directly. For the first time in weeks. Allison, you need to help me. His voice was tight. Controlled. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them I've been upfront with you. Have you? I asked quietly. Silence. Real silence this time. This will destroy everything I built, he said finally. Everything we built, I corrected. My name is on the founding documents. The patents. The contracts. More silence. What do you want? He asked. I want our daughter to grow up knowing truth matters, I said. Even when lies would be easier. I hung up. Blocked his number. Contacted a divorce attorney. The board meeting happened without him. Emergency session. They reviewed evidence. Documentation. Timelines. His lawyers argued he'd never explicitly claimed to be deaf in legal documents. That it was public perception, not company fraud. That disability status wasn't relevant to business operations. But the investors weren't concerned about legal technicalities. They were concerned about trust. About what else he might have misrepresented. About board liability. Someone leaked his second confession. The one he made to board members privately. Where he'd proudly explained his marketing genius. How the deaf CEO narrative had secured funding his competitors couldn't touch. He'd expected admiration. Gotten fury instead. Partnerships dissolved first. Organizations that had celebrated him as an inspiration felt betrayed. Used. Grants that supported disability inclusion in tech were quietly revoked. Major clients started reviewing contracts. Looking for exit clauses. Investors demanded independent audits. His picture disappeared from the company website. Press releases stopped mentioning his name. The documentary that had been filming for 6 months was cancelled. I watched it happen from the apartment I'd moved into. A quiet place across the city. Safe. Secure. Mine. Vanessa called once. Asked if I planned to issue a statement. No, I said. His choices speak for themselves. She was gone from the company within a week. Her position eliminated during restructuring. He expected me to reconsider. To stand beside him. To smile for cameras and provide cover. I filed for divorce instead. Cleanly. Professionally. With documentation that proved I'd been systematically marginalized from the company I'd helped build. My lawyer was excellent. A woman who specialized in intellectual property disputes. Who understood exactly what my early involvement meant legally. You have strong claims, she said. Co-founder status. Patent collaboration. Evidence of constructive termination when he brought in his replacement. I didn't want revenge. Just clarity. Just fair recognition for work I'd actually done. The settlement negotiations were brief. His lawyers understood how bad litigation would look. How much worse public trial testimony would be. I received an unexpected call. From a major accessibility-focused tech firm. They'd followed the situation. Reviewed my background. Recognized my name from patent filings. We'd like to discuss a position, the CEO said. Lead architect for our new accessible design initiative. Your project management experience and technical background align perfectly. I took the meeting. Listened to their vision. Asked questions. Felt something I hadn't felt in years. excitement, purpose, recognition. They offered me the job the following week. Senior leadership, my name on projects, actual credit for actual work. I accepted. The divorce finalized 3 weeks before our daughter was born. Clean terms, fair division of assets, recognition of my co-founder status and patent contributions. He lost his CEO position. Not through my action. Through board decision. Through investor pressure. Through the natural consequences of systematic deception. His story became a cautionary tale. Think pieces about authenticity in leadership. Essays about disability fraud. Discussions about the difference between inspiration and exploitation. I didn't contribute to any of them. Didn't need to. Truth echoed loudly enough without my voice added. I delivered our daughter on a Tuesday morning. 8 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect. He wasn't there. Wasn't invited. Our relationship existed now only through lawyers and formal custody arrangements. My mother held my hand through labor. My sister cut the umbilical cord. My new colleagues sent flowers and genuine congratulations. I named her Claire, after my grandmother. A woman who'd built her own accounting firm in the 1960s when women weren't supposed to do such things. When I held Claire for the first time, I made promises. About truth. About dignity. About never disappearing into someone else's narrative. My new position started when Claire was 8 weeks old. The company provided generous parental leave, flexible scheduling, actual support. My first project involved accessible design for vision-impaired users. Real accessibility, not performance, not narrative. Genuine inclusion built by people who understood both technology and human need. My name appeared in press releases, on patents, in meetings where my expertise was recognized and valued. Colleagues asked for my input, respected my boundaries, celebrated my contributions. I'd forgotten what that felt like. Being seen as competent rather than convenient. He tried to contact me several times. Through mutual friends. Through his lawyer. Through carefully worded messages about wanting to be involved with Claire. I maintained boundaries. Professional. Firm. Clear. Custody arrangements were established through legal channels. Supervised visits at first. Structured schedules. Everything documented. He'd lost his company. His reputation. His carefully constructed narrative. But those losses weren't my doing. They were consequences of his choices. Of systematic deception. Of believing silence made him invincible. I'd simply stopped protecting him. Stopped absorbing the cost of his performance. I cradle Claire now in the nursery I designed myself. Soft light. Gentle colors. Books lining the shelves. I think about silence. Real silence. Not performance. Not deception. Just the quiet space between sounds where truth lives. She makes small noises. Baby sounds. I respond. We communicate. Honestly. Openly. Sometimes I wonder what he hears now. In whatever apartment he moved to. Whatever new life he's building away from spotlights. But mostly I don't think about him at all. I think about Claire. About the company where my work finally has my name on it. About the morning light through new windows in a home that's genuinely mine. I learned something through everything that happened. Something important. The loudest justice isn't revenge. Isn't retaliation. Isn't dramatic confrontation. It's simply stepping out of the shadow. Standing in your own light. And letting truth echo on its own terms. I'm not the quiet wife anymore. Not the overlooked partner. Not the supportive background character in someone else's story. I'm Alison Carter. Lead architect. Mother. Co-founder who built something real. And that's loud enough. If you enjoyed my story, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe for more stories like mine and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to hear your story too.